Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today's presentation is another part of our March series covering new products and features within SDS2 version 2021. And today we'll be going over new miscellaneous steel items. And presenters, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Nate Block. I'm the technical advisor steel here at SDS2. And I actually used to work for a fabricator here in Lincoln. Doing project management, detailing work, and also involved with some of the fabrication there. 8 years total in the steel industry. And I'm also involved with sales. So I am the Canadian representative here for sales. And really that just involves me really working to make sure all individuals in our industry are able to learn and connect with SDS2. And I'll go ahead and let Mark introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Mark Lau. I am a customer support technician specialist. I've been working with SDS2 for a little over 8 years now. Working with the customers, I also do basic and online training, and I do cloud support.
Awesome. So just to get things rolling here, kind of go over the items we're going to cover in today's presentation. Starting off with a Gert and Purlin demo that Mark's going to show off, really just kind of cover all the new connection enhancements that we've made there. So a lot of those metal building people that maybe are into those hybrid systems that are, structural steel hot rolled members with the sheet metal exterior, Girts and Purlins. I think you guys will see a lot of cool information with that, as well as kind of diving into our welded stud and deck support components. Those are some really awesome new tools that are going to save a lot of detailing work that are really dynamic because they adjust according to the members, as well as kind of touch on our pour stop and cage ladder. Those members kind of get lost over time, and we just want to kind of refresh everyone's memory on those items that, we can, again, save a lot of time in the detailing work with those awesome tools. And then towards the end, we'll go over our new handrail shop automation partners. These are just people that we work well with as far as being able to export all that CNC data into the robotics that are really awesome, really innovative, and that really make that handrail fabrication process so much easier and faster. So really looking forward to seeing what happens with them. And so just to kind of give you an idea, for the Gert and Purlin enhancements, we have all new connections with the Gerts. That includes the bolted WT angle, welded WT angle, welded rotated column flange and toe connections that are really awesome, super versatile. Again, everything is really user friendly. And the Purlin connections, obviously they're listed, the plain and bolted plate and angle overlap wing plate. So without dragging this out too long, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mark for his demo.
All right, thank you, Nate. Let's get into this.
We will start out by modeling in the new Gert member. I've already offset a line to the building line for the points to pick when adding in our Gert members. When you are modeling in the new Gert member, you will want to model it in a counterclockwise direction around the building. I'll go to my members, add, I have Gert, and I'm going to pick my intersection of construction line to intersection of construction line. I can come to the section size to browse for what material type I want to use. You are able to use wide flange, channel, cold form channel, in cold form Z. I also have my toe direction here that I can fill out. Next, we'll come down to the connection type. With the new Gert member, it is not a system design connection, but it is a user input connection to where the user has control on what type of connections that they want for the Gert. If I drop this down, we can see that we have angle, plate, and WT for connection types, and we'll look at the different connection types here shortly. You also have options for the attachment, the attached to, and then the connection material, and if you're having bolts and or welds. You have control of that. I will go ahead and hit OK here. And then I'm going to continue picking down the line here. And I will leave these the same values I had before. So now that I have my Girts in, maybe I want to copy them up to a different elevation. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my building line, or the grid line was called Gert line here. And I can change my selection filter down here at the bottom. I can change that to Girts and then be able to select my Girts here. And I can copy the members. Going to pick my point here, and I'm going to go up to my 18-foot elevation, confirm the copy, and then see that I have them here. Now maybe I want to copy just these outer two. And I'll just come up here, confirm my copy. So with all of my connection types here, I'm going to open up a different view here to show examples of my different connection types. So I can come in here and see that we do have an angle that is on the bottom side that is bolted to both the flange of the column and the Gert. You can control which side of the connection, top or bottom. Here I have an angle that will go to the toes of the column. You can set up the weld type, and then it's bolted here. Next, we have a WT to where it is connected to the web of the column right now, but you can also have it attached to the flange of the column. Next, we have just an angle welded on here for the side. And then we also have a plate connection that you can use. I'm going to go back to the view that I was working in before, my Gert line. And now we will talk about adding in secondary Gerts. So I can come up here and be able to add in my secondary Gert member. And this will allow me to have connections to Gerts, and then also from Gerts to secondary Gerts. So I might come in here and just do the same connection type. For this materials, you have the same as the Gert. You have the wide flange, the channel, the cold form sizes as well. You do have a toe direction here, so I'll leave that as 10 foot. And then you have your connection information. And then I'll go ahead and pick my point here again and change my toe direction. So in this case, for my opening, maybe I want to come back here and add in Gerts to support it here in the middle. So I can just come in like we had done before. Click OK. Okay, now to show examples again here, I'm just going to open up my ISO view here to be able to show the examples to where you can see that it does notch out around the Gert there for the secondary Gert, and I've got a clip angle connection in here, and then I can also get my connection here to my secondary Gert. Next, we will talk about is modeling in the new Purlin member. So the new Purlin member, the member line or the points that you pick are going to be on the bottom side of the Purlin so that you are picking on top of the beam flange here. I have a sloping roof, so I'm going to snap to the top of the flange to be able to model in my purlins. I will come up here and go to my member add. And I have my Purlin member to be able to add. And in this case, I'm going to use the point locator of intersection of construction line and member, since I have a sloping beam, to be able to pick my points. For the material types here, I have wide flange, channel, cold form channel, cold form Z. I'm actually going to come over here to the Z, click OK. I do have a rotation here for it. I do have a toe direction in or out. And then I have my different connection types. So like Gert, the Purlin member has connection types now. It is not a system design connection. It is a user input connection to where you have control over how you want the connection to be. So you have bolted, plate, angle, overlap, wing plate. I will show you some of these examples here coming up here shortly. For right now, I'm just going to go bolted. And then I can continue modeling down my bays here. For the next one, I'm actually going to span over 2 bays and have it go over the top of that beam. And we will talk about being able to connect that here shortly. So I'll just go ahead and leave everything as default like it was before and finish out this line here. So now what I can do is come in here, and if I take off my depth check, you can see that I do not have any sort of connection here. So if I select my Gert here, or my Purlin, I have the option to add a component. I have a Purlin Connection component that I can add, and then it's going to have you pick a point where you want to be able to add it. And then I have my different connection information that I can do. So just like in the Purlin edit window, I've got bolted, plate, angle, and then you have some different options that you can use there. So I'm going to leave mine as bolted. Go ahead and hit OK. And you can see that I got my connection bolted in here. So to be able to show some different connection types here for the Purlin, I'm going to open up a different view here and just talk about some different ones. So I've got the bolted like shown before. In this scenario, we have the plate connection for the Purlin. And then down here at the end, we have a wing plate that you can use for the end of the Purlin there. Next, we are going to talk about adding in the deck support component. So I'm going to come in here, and in this situation where I have my beam and I've got some joist where I need to have that deck support put in here. So I will select my beam, and then I can do my component add, and I have deck support. Now what it's asking is select selection method for beam joist members, which means that I can select if there's any beams framing in here or any joist framing into this beam that I selected. This is where I can have the split of the deck support. I can do points where I can just pick my points from how long that I want it to be, or I could do both to where I'm selecting them, but then I'm also picking my points for where to start and where to end. For right now, I'm just going to pick beam joists and members, and I will pick my 3 joists. Now, when I come in here, I have section size that I can pick. You have the option of wide flange, channel, angle, or HSS. So maybe I want an HSS. 3x3, I'll go maybe with the 3/8. And then next I have my setbacks. So this is the where the splits are. So from the splits, how far back do I want them to be set. So currently they are 4 inches, where I can control that, and then I also have weld information that I can control. So if I hit OK here, it knows where these joists are, and then it is splitting it 4 inches back, or having a split of 4 inches here for each end to be able to control that. So, and with this component, I can be able to edit it and be able to change any of the information as I'm going back through. Next, we are going to model in some welded stud component to show examples of this. I'm going to select the beam again and go to my component add. And then at the bottom, I have welded studs. Go ahead and hit OK here. I have 2 different stud type options that I can do. I can do a shear stud or a threaded stud. And if I pick a threaded stud, I do have the option to add a nut and washer. Next, I have my position. So I can have them be on top flange, bottom flange, or I can even do the webs here, depending on what you're needing to attach to that beam. Next, I have my pattern setting. So I can do an equal spacing here of maybe I want to go 1 foot spacing. And then I have my in setting here to where I can do a fixed spacing. Maybe I want to go start 1 foot from the left end for my options. And then I have my weld information here. So now that you can see I have my 1 foot spacing, I've got my, I have a nut on here. Now I have a couple different options here that I can change. So maybe I want to come in here and be able to have 2 columns for the stud. So I can go ahead and hit OK here. And you can see that I have 2 columns for my studs. Another option I have here when I set my column quantity to 2 is instead of normal, I can do a stagger pattern to be able to stagger the welded studs. And I'll just show an example of the shear stud. Next, I'm going to add in the pour stop member. So I'm going to add it to the top of this beam here. I snap to the beam. I already have some construction lines laid out. So I'll go up to my member add. I have my pour stop member. I'm going to go past here for my first member. In the pour stop, we have the options for your different pour stop type of bent plate Z, C, angle. I also have my in preps to where I can cope around columns here in this situation, or if I want to do any sort of preparations here for the vertical leg or the horizontal leg. Next, I have my horizontal leg information, so I can add holes to the horizontal leg. I can also add any sort of, or I can add stud anchors. I have my vertical leg information. I have my different hole types. I also can add in studs, DBAs, or material bolts to the vertical leg. Control my where they're placed at. Next, I have in plates, or the kind of the cap plates here. I will go ahead and add in a cap plate on the left end of this member. And I'm going to go ahead and add in another one here going around the corner. And I'm going to go to the end plate here and take this off of, because it's going to be in the corner there. Maybe I'll cap this. We do also have the option for supports for that. If I bring up the graphic here, you can see where they're talking about the supports and how they're put in. So now you can see that I have my studs here. It put a capped plate here on the end. If I want to, I can also change that to a nested one to be able to show how it's nested in here. You can see how it's coped out around the column. I have my studs. Here are the supports. If I want to turn the supports off, maybe I want something different than the studs as well. I can come into supports, turn off add supports. I may come back to my vertical leg anchor. Maybe change this to material bolts. You can see that my supports are gone and now I have material bolts that are added in here. With adding in these new members here and adding in the components, one custom member that want to show here again, there has not been any new features to it in 2021, but just want to make sure that we do know that SDS2 has the cage ladder member that you can add in here.
Now that that's done, let's pass it back over to Nate and he'll go over the handrail.
Thanks, Mark. So our first partner here is Itech. They have a machine called the Dragon A250 or the A400. Those are two different machines. And let me just get the video playing for you guys here. So as that video is playing, I'll just kind of talk over it. It's another CNC tube and pipe plasma cutter. It handles various materials, anything from round, square, rectangle, angle, and channel, everything up to 24-foot lengths. And it's really awesome. It's able to mark all your bend locations, rotations, saddle fitments, piece marks, as well as engrave that same information. So really awesome time-saving, marking there, as well as being able to cut every profile so that the guys in the shop can have a really easy fit up on all those different materials. Nothing that's going to be, none of that jagged edge stuff that's not going to, create larger gaps in the fit up process, as well as a laser alignment. No more have to hassle with the tape measures and bump stops. So again, just really great technology, really cutting down on the human error side of things. And then this is done easily just by importing a step or an IGES file. And we have a separate plugin through their proprietary software that automatically reads SDS2 files. So if you really want to look into that, if you want any more information, feel free to visit sds2.com as well as bentech.com. So next up on our list is Itech, and they're just another bending machine, and it just takes the NC or CNC file and it incorporates the geometry into the machine basically through 3 easy steps. What they do is they just take the IGES file from SDS2 and then they combine it as a single component in their software, which is called TubeWorks. And then from there, they export that CNC file to the tube bender, and then the tube bender then makes the necessary bends as needed. So super slick process there in 3 easy steps. So pretty cool stuff there. Next on our list is EMI. And I'll go ahead and get the video going here. And EMI, again, is just another CNC tube and pipe plasma cutter. And they can process tube and pipe material all in one quick, fast process. And again, they're very similar to the other machine as Bentech, where they're able to fit, cope, and miter all the different marks on the material. Again, reducing the costly manual measuring, as well as sawing and grinding. And this combines the fab steps to save you a ton of time and labor. And SDS2 actually has a toolbox item, which is a direct export that creates that data file really for a really seamless, effortless way of getting that data to the machines as needed. And again, if you need more information on that, go ahead and feel free to visit emiworks.com or sds2.com. And for our next one is Lightning Rail. And these guys are a fully automated CNC marking machine for commercial layouts. And this is all done through a simple DXF file export. And really where this machine would shine is in combination with any of your other robotic handrail machines. So if you do have one of those coping machines or bending machines, this machine is going to do a really great job of doing that layout on the table for you with all those parts that you just fabbed. And so that it's going to lay out everything from your picket railings, your stair stringers, ladders, and it just kind of makes it an error-free process and greatly reducing your layout time. So totally removing the hassle of tape measures, squares, soapstones. And they're saying that this can really cut down on your production time by 50%. And so that's a super huge amount of time and money for sure. And again, it's a real compact design that fits into your shop process. And if you want to know more information on that, go ahead and contact SDS2 at sds2.com or automatedlayout.com is their website. All right, and so that covers about everything. Thank you for attending today's webinar, and we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. And before we dive into some questions, we do like to get your guys' feedback. So let's go ahead and start out with some poll questions. So let's go ahead and post up our first poll question. So we always like to get you guys to interact. So feel free to make sure you get your votes in on that, and we'll see what the results are. And so let's start with the first question. Do we need a plugin for handrail exports? So we do have toolbox items. So if you're not aware, any current customers, as long as you're current, you have access to our toolbox items. So one of those being the export for EMI, and that was one of the machines that we already went over. So we have a nice toolbox item with them, and as well as having access to all the other toolbox items that are very handy for detailers. Let's go ahead. Here's another question. Mark, maybe you can answer this one. Does Gert and Purlin connections work also, like not just with the light gauge Z and C? I think you might have mentioned that in your demo.
Yes, you'll also get connections there. You've got the option to use channel material and then also wide flange material along with those cold form material types.
Okay, awesome. All right, do we have results on that poll question? Let's go ahead and see what those are. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you structural commercial, so no surprise there. Good to see that. Let's go ahead and post up another poll question. So do you currently work with any of our partners for handrail fabrication? So yeah, I'd be curious to see if you guys have any of these cool machines in your shop. So let's go to another question. Can you adjust the deck support to a specific location on the top flange, center line, or example, maybe closer to the inside of the building? Yeah, I believe there's an offset setting in your setup. Is that correct, Mark? I think there's an offset.
That is correct. In the edit window there is an offset to where you can control where it places that deck support on top of the beam there.
Okay. And then will the Stead component work on beams with material rotate of 180? Is that, I think they're talking about kind of rolling the member, I believe. Is that correct?
Right, beam rotation. I would have to test that. I would have to look into that for you here. I'd have to possibly bring up the model and start looking into that. So maybe if we want to move on to another question, and I can look into this with that.
Yeah, no problem.
Beam rotation.
No, that's a fair answer. And again, if we don't answer questions, our support staff is always there. Don't hesitate to call and ask the same questions. If we don't ever get to them, we're always here and willing to help. Let's see. How about what happens when two Girts frame into the same corner?
So we do have an option in the Gert edit window to be able to shorten either end. So if the materials are both going to the same location, we can shorten one or the other so that they're not overlapping each other.
Okay, awesome. One question, let's see. So does slab edge members, can multiple be edited at once? So as of right now, I think you have to edit one member at a time. I believe that still stands right now. And I do want to say that slab edge right now is a member. So when you do input them, to have any automation or intelligence behind them, they are a member. But we are working on a component so that that can be more dynamic and more user friendly. Because I know that was another question, wondering if it can only be added as a member. So obviously you can still manually add material to members going that route, but we are working on a component. We do listen to our customers, so we are improving that process, and that is definitely a demand. So that is coming down the line. So hopefully that is something we can deliver here in the future for you guys. Let's see.
And just to answer that question, Nate, I just checked it here is I did edit 2 pour stops and it did bring up the edit window for me. You will have some mixed fields depending on what values that you have input in there. But you can multi-edit pour stops there.
Okay, all right. And let's go ahead and see the results on that poll question. Okay, so it looks like some of you guys have Bentech, a couple of guys with EMI. So, and obviously there's a lot of competitors out there with machines. So I'm not surprised to see you guys using various machines, different companies and different brands, things of that nature. But it is good to see that some of you guys are using some automation in the shop when it comes to handrails. Let's go ahead and post up another poll question. And if you plan on attending SDS2 Summit at St. Pete's Beach this year, which by the way is first week of September, I believe, what event are you looking forward to the most? So just curious on what everybody might be excited for if you do plan on attending that. And moving along, some more questions here. Does the welded stud component work with HSS? Mark, can you want to answer that one?
Yes, let me just pull that up here real quick. I was looking into some questions here. And I'm just going to model one in here on my end and just take a quick look.
That's no problem. And I'll answer another question while you're looking into that. Somebody's asking about Lincoln Electric Python X machine. Yeah, we actually do work with them. They are actually an industry partner of ours. I highly recommend, anybody looking into any Python X machine as well as any of our other industry partners, feel free to visit our website, and we have all our partners listed on our website that we work well with, and Lincoln Electric is one of them. And we actually do have some upcoming webinars that focuses on Lincoln Electric, Python X, as well as other industry partners. So those of you that are asking if we do work with them, we absolutely do. Somebody's asking if there's an added stair add tool. Yes, there absolutely is a member stair add tool, pretty slick. So those of you that are wondering more about stairs and rails, we will have upcoming webinars here in the next couple months that are going to go over stairs and rails. So we are never in short supply of stair and rail questions. So we are aware of that. So we are going to put out more webinars to cover that information. Then I also want to point you towards our YouTube channel for SDS2. We have lots of great stair and rail videos in there, in our library of videos. So I would recommend checking that out as well as the upcoming webinars. Make sure you attend those that focuses on those.
Okay, and then Nate, I can fill in here of the HSS, the Welded Studs does work on the HSS for if you add one in like as a beam. Then you also, if you rotate the beam 90 degrees, you still can add the welded stud component. And with that welded stud component, we do have the different faces that you can add it to. You can add it to the top flange, bottom flange, or near side and far side web there. So depending on where you want those studs at for when you rotate that beam, but you can add it to both to answer those questions.
Okay. Maybe another one here. Could the Gert connection be centered on Gert material by check? I believe that's just a matter of where you're setting your building line, if I'm not mistaken, right? And that's going to input the member on that line.
Correct. Yes, depending on where you're picking your points, this kind of goes back to a question earlier as well, is when you're picking counterclockwise, the stick line will be on the outside of the material, and then the material will go in. So when you're picking your points, it will be along the Gert line or the building line, and the material will come back in towards the building. If you go in a clockwise direction, then the material will come out away from that member line or away from the building there. So yes, depending on how you're modeling it in there and your rotation, and then you can also set up how you want your spacing and everything for your connections.
Okay. Another one here. How do you remove components from members after you add them?
So you have a couple of options to be able to remove the components. One is you can go into your member tree and go to that member and expand it and select the component and hit delete. You also can come into and select the component by right-clicking on top of it and saying select other, and you can grab the component and then you can just hit the delete button on your keyboard to be able to delete it.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. The gauge on a WT connection can be modified after the connection on Girts is done. Yeah, I believe that's all in your setup window. You can go into your specified connection setup, right? And you can go in there and you should be able to adjust your bolt gauge on whatever given material that you have chosen as your connection type, if I believe that's correct,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay. So is it possible to detail the Gert as beam add setback on the drawing? I think that's I think they're just asking whether or not you can use a beam as a material type. I don't see why that would be an issue as this add setback on the drawing. Yeah, I believe that that's just a matter of being able to input the material as whatever depth or building line that you won't so choose. And then Mark already listed the given material types that we do support for Girts and Purlins. And let's go ahead, let's see the results of this last poll question here. And looks like a lot of you are really interested in tips and tricks for modeling in editor sessions. So that's good to see. I know you guys are always looking for more information to help with that. So we do try to listen to you guys as much as possible. That's why we do these webinars, and we listen and try to, focus our future events and sessions based on what your guys' needs are. So good to see that. All right, let's see. I'm going through these questions. People again are asking more about pour stops. Like I said, if you're wanting to have pour stops at certain lengths, I know we've had some different components in the past being able to set certain max lengths or minimum lengths. So we are, again, I just want to repeat, we are working on a component for that as well, so that we can make all that possible. And as of right now, yes, you do have to edit single members of the pour stop. So I know that's a frustrating process for some of you, but we are listening and we are working on making that better. Let's see. I think, oh, here's a question, bolted pour stop. Can we do bolted pour stops, Mark?
So we would currently, the attachment there, let me pull this up here. Let me look into that and see if we have another question here, Nate.
Yeah, no problem. It's fine. And I'm just checking here. And what if we needed more than 2 columns of studs on top of a beam?
Currently, we do not provide more than 2 columns of studs there for that component. I can definitely put in an enhancement request to have more than the 2 columns there.
Okay, another question, somebody's asking about Vortman Machinery. So if you guys are ever curious who we're working with, we are always open to working with any industry partners that benefits everyone, both our customers and us, to work with as many machinery as possible. So a lot of that works. It's kind of a two-way street, us reaching out to them and them reaching out to us. We will never turn somebody away. So, but with most big names in the industry, Vortman being one of them, yes, we do work with them. And so as far as, webinars, demonstrations, things of that nature, it's just a matter of coordination. And again, not everybody's schedule is always open for, both parties. So there's always kind of a process to that, but we're always open to working with anybody. And again, if you have any questions about anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out to our support staff for any of those. Let's see here.
And then Nate, to go back to that original question you had about the pour stop being bolted,
Yep.
We do have the option to where if you have your horizontal leg, there is an option to add holes. And if you add the holes, there is an option to be able to add bolts, to be able to bolt that to like the beam if you've got the pour stop on top of it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for looking into that. All right. And I think that's a lot of repeat questions here on pour stop. So I think I'm going to go ahead and close down the questions now. I hope we answered most of them. If we didn't, again, go ahead, feel free to reach out to support, SDS2.com. You can get a hold of us that way. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to Mark or myself. And again, thank you guys for attending. And again, if you have any other questions, SDS2.com, and we look forward to seeing you guys hopefully in the spring, if any of you plan on attending the summit, which is the first week of September. And yeah, so, and I also look forward to hopefully seeing you guys attend more webinars in the near future. And we'll go ahead and close it down. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.